Caring for someone with terminal illness is difficult, both emotionally and physically, and sometimes you just need a little bit of extra help. And today, Linda Cobb, you know her as the Queen of Clean, is here in a different role to talk about Hospice of Arizona. Good to see you yet again.
Good morning. Good to see you too.
Well, this is a tough topic, but it's one that I think a lot of families need to learn about because there are so many different options and questions out there, and we're going to get to the bottom of those.
Absolutely.
Beginning first with your involvement with Hospice of Arizona.
You know, my involvement started when my mother was ill. She was a huge fan of hospice. Thought it was a wonderful thing for people who had a life-limiting illness, and had always said to me, that's what I want. I was able to provide that for her, and it was an amazing thing. She went very peacefully, in the end pain-free, with the peace and comfort and pain relief that only hospice can actually provide. After that, my cousin also was in Hospice of Arizona. My ex-husband I put into Hospice of Arizona. Just recently, a good friend of ours who passed in the radio industry was with hospice.
Well, and I think, too, it's good to know that there's a referral in this arena because it's so emotionally taxing to begin with.
It is.
And to know that you have somebody that has been through it, not just once, but multiple times with great success. Tell me a little bit about what qualifies for hospice care and how that procedure and that I should say process works.
Well, basically for hospice, you have to have a life-limiting illness. It's not a referral that you have to have from a doctor, but you need to be at a life-limiting illness. Now, does that mean that you're going to die immediately? No, it doesn't. In fact, my mom was like the Energizer Bunny. And this is unusual, but she was in and out of hospice probably 7 or 8 times. At one point she got where she wasn't eating well, and they thought, well, you know, she's probably not going to last too long. Well, Mom proved them wrong, sat up one day and said, when's lunch? And so you can graduate out of hospice, and then you can go back into hospice if you need it. But the qualification basically is a life-limiting illness.
Basically, the intent is that you don't want any life-preserving measures taken. You want to
Exactly. And you want to have pain relief, total pain relief, that can be administered to you in hospice that cannot be administered to you in a hospital setting.
When you start to look into this, and if you have a loved one that, you know, is desiring hospice care, let's be honest, Linda, there are tons of places, even here in the Valley, much less across the state, depending on where your loved one lives, to choose from. So why Hospice of Arizona?
You know, I've had so much experience with hospice because I've had so many people in hospice. And I've used other hospices and attempted to use them and tried them. And I found in every single case, Hospice of Arizona was the hospice that had the heart. It provided my mother with the care, the comfort, and the peace that she needed, and the kindness. And it enabled my mom and I to stay connected as mother and daughter, instead of me trying to be her caregiver. So the reason I loved hospice was it had such heart about it. It wasn't a corporation. It wasn't a business. It was somebody with a heart who was there not only to nurture your loved one, but to nurture you too. And believe me, when you're going through that, you need that nurturing too.
Well, and as we talk about our final thoughts about hospice, I think you raised a great question that, quite frankly, I had never thought of before. It does allow you to shift back into that role that you really want to be spending those last moments with. Absolutely. As the daughter or as the wife, but not as the caregiver. That way you can be in that moment, in that relationship, so as you have been your whole life.
You don't lose those moments with the person. And I really urge everybody to make the decision now if you want hospice. Call Hospice of Arizona, get the information on it. Let the person who's going to care for you, let your children, your wife, your husband, and your doctor know what your wishes are so that they're carried out.
And so how far in advance should that decision be made? When you're already sick or when you're completely healthy?
You know what? I believe you should make that decision when you're completely healthy. You're in a position to evaluate what you want and what you need, and to put that in motion by letting your children know. Because, you know, there can be a lot of guilt with kids because, you know, I started out saying, oh, I'm going to take care of my mom right to the very end, and I would never put her anywhere. And then I found out that I couldn't care for her the way hospice could care for her.
It allows you that freedom, that release of the guilt, and just to go back into that role.
And the peace that she died with was amazing and in absolutely no pain.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your personal story.
Thanks,
we do appreciate, again, the referral, knowing that you've been through the process. And if you would like to find out more information, you can reach Hospice of Arizona by calling the number on your screen. It's 866-HOA 4001. Let me make it easier, 866-462-4001, or find them online at AmericanHospice/Arizona.com. Lastly, Hospice of Arizona is a sponsor of Sonoran Living Live.